Hello, my name is Dan Paulson, and I'm going to be offering up a verse interpretation of a Jesus verse in this video that is in compliance with the way that I interpret all the verses from antiquity. And let me very quickly say that I will read Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and the teachings of Jesus all identically. I see a template that is nested in all of their works, a self-healing template. And I see that after the Tao Te Ching emerged with that teaching, Taoism was built as a result. I saw that as the Dhammapada emerged from Buddha, Buddhism grew and grew as a result. As the works of Jesus emerged, and I'm talking about his compact verses, like Lao Tzu's, like the Buddha's. That would be the Sermon on the Mount, Sermon on the Plain, the Gospel of Thomas, although the Gospel of Thomas, there are some additional things in there you have to be careful and strip out. At any rate, I take that body of work, all of those, and I treat them the same way. I play them out in the psyche as a self-healing path on this, as the template on this self-healing path. So if you're interested in that, I'll post a link to the first video from Lao Tzu below. And I'm not treating Jesus here as a savior or even a Christian. I'm treating him as a master teacher from antiquity who encoded his verses in a particular way that was updated, that were still teaching the same thing that other places around the world were teaching, simply putting it into a new shell, a new way of saying the words. And there are a variety of reasons why I believe they did that encoding. I've got that in some previous videos, but basically they are intelligent people, as intelligent as us, but pre-technology. They're telling stories. Stories is big, big stories. But they're also coming from a hurt place, and they're nesting the self-healing teaching, but it's a hard thing to do. So they're putting it in vehicles that travels around. So most of the people on the planet are not getting what is nested. They're carrying the religions or the myths or the spiritual teachings. And the real teaching is revealed in playing it out in the psyche and decoding the analogs that they're using. And we'll look at what that means in just a second here. But first of all, and this is really important for the process of what I'm doing, if you read Lao Tzu, you realize every one of his verses is cryptic. You're supposed to figure it out. You're supposed to ponder it. You're supposed to play it out inside. And in doing so, you wire your brain. Buddha, every one of his verses are cryptic. You're supposed to read them. You're supposed to figure them out. You're supposed to process them and work them through until they move from academic to experiential knowledge. They become a part of who and what you are. You learn it better. Jesus, you got to treat him the same way. That nothing that you read from him is plain language. People get stuck there today doing that, not interpreting or saying, this one makes sense. This means I can, turning over tables in the temple, that means I can be violent. That love your enemy, I'm going to ignore that one. Let's, cherry picking starts to come in as people are trying to figure out what to do. Wash the inside of the cup. That means turn my soul over to Jesus. That one can make sense. They're trying to interpret that one. Why doesn't it? Why read that one interpreted instead of reading it like the one of turning over the temples where it's plain language? Why doesn't it mean just go do your dishes? We have to get away from all of that all over the place interpretation. That's where it goes bad. We treat every verse as if it's something that needs to be interpreted and played out in the psyche. And when we do, all of those similarities that we see between Jesus and Buddha, did Jesus learn from Buddha? Lao Tzu, Buddha, and Jesus all taught the exact same thing. There is one way to inner peace. I don't care what religion you are from, what part of the world, no matter what kind of a human being you are, we're the same. We are emergent from this universe in the same manner as each other, and we function in the same way. And I haven't said this a while in my videos, so I will make sure to refresh this piece of information right here. I don't look at anything from antiquity as being anything from off-planet, no mysterious off-world people, beings, gods, goddesses, anything like that. That we emerged here, we're figuring this out. People that figured out things long ago are passing it along to us, but if we hold them in such high regard that we can't approach what they're teaching us, we're going to wait our whole lives holding on to a mystery. We have to understand that we're all on the same level, and that in doing so, we have access to their teaching. We're like them. We can do what they did and greater. But careful with that. Not because we are gods like them, but because they were humans like us. Okay, I'll get into the verse now, but I want to talk about something first. If you're on this search, one thing that I found that was helpful for me was that I have a Tyndale version of the Bible that is actually, you see that it's a red letter edition. I don't know if that'll show up very well. Anyway, everything that Jesus says is in red letters, and it's easy to separate his teachings out from all of the Roman teachings and the Jewish teachings, the stories that are being created to create his, what's called his ministry, his version of the hero's journey. What we have to do is extract out of that and just stick with this. So I like using this to find the material, but then I like using the New Revised Standard Bible to go actually read it, because this is modern, scholarly, and is accurate, and it leaves out everything that the Shakespeare-sounding older English type of material, although you can extract that from here too. Okay, that having been said, I am moving on to Luke 6:33 through 39 here. It's about the same length as the Lao Tzu verse 33 that I did in the last video. And 33, they said to him, John's disciples, like the disciples of the Pharisees, frequently fast and pray, but your disciples eat and drink. Jesus said to them, you cannot make wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them, can you? The days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast in those days. Okay, pattern seekers, and you're looking for these things through all the material. There's a goofy thing here. It almost seems clunky and cumbersome when you try to read it. When it starts off with, John's disciples, like the disciples of the Pharisees, frequently fast and pray, but your disciples eat and drink. So right here it's talking about the physical world. John's disciples, the Pharisees' disciples, they're fasting and praying as normal, but your disciples are eating and drinking. Okay, that sounds fine. But Jesus' answer is, you cannot make wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them, can you? How did it go from Pharisees and John's disciples to wedding guests? These are so obviously cumbersome and clunky. You look at them and say, there's something else going on here. So pay attention to these. They are actually important. They help you see something is not quite right, but it's something to see. If you look at the first video, I did that outward to inward transition, outward to inward, and I mentioned you will see it elsewhere. This is what we're seeing. John was the old way. John was the physical world. John baptized people in flesh. Jesus baptizes them in spirit. This is making that transition from outward looking to inward looking in a completely different way, but pattern-wise, it's doing the same thing. It is transitioning the human that is on the path from looking to the physical world to looking to your own spiritual or mental world. If you think about it, though, and I can be a little reluctant to say this out loud, it also looks to me like Jesus is admonishing the people who have been baptized in flesh. And then, you go on to be Christians. You are one of John's disciples. To become a Jesus disciple, you actually drop all of that, turn inward, and make that path inward about yourself and about, getting rid of the things that hurt you and that you judge with. To become pure in spirit, pure in heart, empty, poor. Okay, but as we continue to examine what just happened there, Jesus had replied to them that you cannot make the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them, can you? All right, this is where we have to transition analogous terms into our psyche. I'm going to suggest this, that we are considered in much of the teaching to become dual, two parts, male, female, conscious, subconscious, carnal thinking, soul. A variety of things. Our mind thinks one thing, but we store experiences away that act out. We become something different. that the term wedding chamber is going to be the place in the mind where those two combine. This is where, when we are one, when we are combined, when we are pure in spirit, we are at the place that's the wedding chamber. That is where our conscious and our subconscious both function together as one. And when you're not paying attention, everything is fine. Nothing acts out. You don't get angry. You don't snap at people. You don't have all of those things with you. So if we go back to look at this, you cannot make wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them, can you? What would the wedding guests be? If there's a bride and a groom, the two of them functioning together, conscious, subconscious, that these things that you hold inside of you become the guests. We find that in other teachings where you've got to go get something back, a field or something. Family's got it. Somehow somebody's got something. In this case, they're using wedding guests, and they need to fast. Spiritually, that means they need to diminish. You want to have a wedding between the male and the female, the bride and the bridegroom, once the wedding guests are gone. Once the characteristics that we hold inside of us are diminished, we are as one again. So yeah, we transition from outward looking to inward looking in that set of verses right there. Okay, then what happens? We move on to the next verse. He also told them a parable. No one tears a piece from a new garment and sews it on an old garment. Otherwise, the new will be torn, and the piece from the new will not match the old. Okay, let's look at that one for a second. Analogs again. We become the story. We become the component parts of the story when we play it out inside of us. We have what here? We have a piece from a new garment on an old garment. Okay, we are living an old life and we're looking to go to a new life. No one tears a piece from a new garment. The new garment is something that we clothe ourselves in. In the spiritual world, it's what we cover ourselves in. Pain, shame, hurt. If we're looking to get rid of that stuff, we want a new garment. We're trying to put something on our old selves. We try to put something new on our old self without resolving the past. Otherwise, the new will be torn. Yeah, it doesn't work if we try to move on to something and leave the past behind. And the piece from the new will not match the old. We have to leave the past behind. And of course, what I mean in leaving the past behind means that we have accumulated things in life that we are carrying with us that are continuing to act out. We are holding on to things because of walls, barriers, fear that we carry with us. And that is actually what we need to leave behind. But also, we might be trying to emerge from a bad situation to a new situation, and we have to get out of certain situations. So in all cases, in this case, it teaches us that if we're trying to grow and get someplace different, we might very well have to leave where we are, and we certainly have to leave our baggage behind. And that's going to take interacting with that baggage and forgiveness. And if we think about life, if I think about my life early on where I'm moving from situation to situation, wondering why there's just cyclical failures everywhere I go. People are messed up and they're all messed up the same way. It took a long time for me to figure out that I was bringing my life experience with me everywhere I went. And that even though a change, it didn't emerge right away, it didn't take long before it seemed like things were cycling in the same way. It's important to recognize those. But that recognizing that and thinking that, you know what, I'm gonna leave all of this anger and hatred inside of me because I don't want to deal with it, and I'm just going to go live a different life and everything be happy and put on a happy face. It's not going to work. We know that already. It's going to come out. It'll get triggered. It has to be left behind. No amount of putting something new on or new in or something like that is going to make it work. We need a rebirth. It moves on to another version. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins and will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. But new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. Okay, that one should be fairly easy. Same process, only now we are the wineskin. The wine is what we're trying to put into a wineskin. Remembering again that we're always going to play these out as analogs to something in our psyche that's fitting on this template, this self-healing template. And that is what we have going on right here, self-healing. This is, if you know this encoding process, you can listen to these stories and extract what is in there. And if you don't know it, you will love the story and pass it along. Again, it's their technology. It's going everywhere. The fun stories will. Just know that there's something in here. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins and will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. That's the same as with the garment that we just did, that we can't put our new wine, our new way of feeling, into our old selves. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. We cannot bring our old selves with our new self. There's a transition point. We have to leave the past behind. But new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. We must purge our past and ourselves and our beliefs and our pain and our shame and all of those things in order to have a new life. And no one, after drinking old wine, desires new wine, but says, the old is good. Well, I don't know about no one, but this is, what is this? This is like many are called, few are chosen. People like their old way of life, or they don't move on, or they can't move on. There's not very many people that say, I'm going to leave my past behind. I've got to rise up above this somehow. And that is what is happening as we interpret this verse. And it coincides with the teachings of Lao Tzu. If we go back to verse 33, we did that transition from outward to inward. And I mean the verse 33 from Lao Tzu in video 1, link below. We did that transition from outward to inward. It told us that what we have to do is internal, that we have to go through and process and understand what made us and figure out a way to leave that behind. That's what we just learned right here. They're teaching the same thing. We just have to play it out inside and understand the way the analogs work. It's a mechanical process. It isn't magic. It's not supernatural. And you can see that it is, well, it's psychological. It is self-healing. At any rate, okay, I should wrap this verse up. I've got this kind of long. It was a little bit longer, but I wanted to cover a few things that I think are important. Sometimes you just say something randomly and people are not on board with where you're coming from. You know, what do you mean with Jesus? I needed to make it clear that I'm reading him as if I'm reading Lao Tzu or Buddha, not as if I'm reading the Christian Son of God that I must worship and bow down before. I will lose his teaching if I do that. I believe I've sounded a bit harsh, and I want to make sure that I am clear about something. I have no problem with anybody that is a Christian, or a Muslim, or a Jew, or a Hindu, or, yeah, you get the idea. I don't judge people based on their beliefs. I judge them based on what they do. And when I go through the teachings of Jesus and I understand them in this manner, and they talk about love and healing and changing the way you are and helping change the world to make it a better place, becoming an example, forgiving, all of those things, and that your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. Yeah, it's up to us to do all of these things, regardless of the reason why. But what I was going to say is that I think that Jesus, the quality of his teaching is incredibly high. And I think it's higher than what I see Christianity actually requires for their practitioners to be. They won't see it that way, but I do. Jesus didn't teach what I see some Christians acting out. Anyway, hope this video was fun, and love one another. I'll see you in the next one.